my name's Courtney and I'm here today to talk to you about edible images, how to store them and how to make fondant discs. Let's go. If you order any edible images from us, this is how they will come. They will come in a lovely Ziploc bag to keep it nice and safe. They will also come with a brochure on how to store your edible images, how to apply to your cakes and how to look after them. But we're going to go through that together today. So firstly, I'm going to show you what the images will look like. Now, if you have ordered cupcake toppers or a round cake topper, it will come pre-cut on the sheet, so you will easily be able to peel those off to use them. If you are using an A4 sheet, you can also peel that with the acetate strip at the top, and you just simply peel that back. Now, with the edible images, it is best to keep them in the packaging that it comes in until you are ready to use them. Because the images don't like moisture, you don't want to leave the bag open. Sitting in your fridge, absolutely not. In your freezer, no, because the edible image sheet is made from icing, so it will attract moisture eventually. So if you've got this sitting out on the bench and it is quite a rainy day, it may go quite sticky as well. So if you keep it in the Ziploc bag until you are ready to use the image is the best. If you're not going to use it for a few days or weeks, they do last quite a while. You can just pop it in your pantry or on a shelf safely away from sunlight and any moisture that may get to the image. Now, when it comes time to actually make your cupcake toppers and popping them onto fondant discs, if you haven't done this before, it is actually quite easy to do. So I'm going to show you how to do that now so you can be prepared when you get your cupcake toppers. So to make your fondant discs for your cupcake toppers, you will need a few supplies. So you will need to start with your edible images that you would like to pop on the discs. You will also need a gum paste or a fondant to use for that. Today I'm just using the Bakewell's fondant because it's what I got in the cupboard. You can use any brand, will work fine. You will also need either water or an edible glue to stick the image to the fondant. So I will show you both methods today with the water and the edible glue. The edible glue, we do have numerous different brands that you can buy from us. The BYCM brand is probably my favorite because it smells like mustics, so that's always a win. The other items you'll need is just a rolling pin and a paintbrush as well, just to stick the glue or the water to the fondant. And you will also need a cookie cutter in the size of the fondant toppers as well, to suit your cupcake toppers. So for instance, here we have the 5cm toppers and a 5cm cookie cutter, so it'll fit perfect with no show. So to start with, we're just going to get a little bit of fondant. It does depend on how many toppers you are making as to how much you will use. This is quite a lot for what I need. I'm just going to show you a couple. But you just need your fondant, get it out, give it a bit of a knead to make sure that it's all ready to go. Now with the gum paste and the fondant toppers, you can do these in advance and let them dry so they are quite hard to pop onto your cupcake toppers. That is probably preferred. Otherwise, if you are in a bit of a rush, you can do it before serving. So we're just going to roll this out a little bit, just making sure it doesn't stick to the bench. You can use corn flour as well, or if you've got a non-stick surface, that's even better. So we just want to roll this out to an even consistency. And once we have done that, we're going to grab our cookie cutter that suits, again, our edible image topper. Now, a lot of people will just use the topper so you can't see the fondant behind it, which is preferred depending on the image itself. However, a lot of people do also use the cutters that have a bit of a fancy outside so you can see, you know, a bit of the fondant showing as well. It does depend on the personal style that you're going for, but I'll show you how to do that now. So we're just going to cut into the fondant with our cookie cutter as you would any other way. So we're just going to press down and then we've got a little fondant disc. Now with this fondant disc, we could then pop them all on a tray and let them dry overnight so they go quite hard. Or again, if you are in a rush, you can just pop that straight on now. So I'm going to cut another one just so I can show you the two different methods of using water and an edible glue as well. Now I've got some water that I prepared a bit earlier just in a paint palette here. And I've also got the edible glue, so I'll show you both methods. It's very simple. You can either put a little bit of water onto the fondant disc itself, or you can be so super careful and pop some onto the back of the image. Now, if you have a full color image, so if this was fully red, for instance, You want to be extra careful when you're popping the glue or the water on the back, because if you happen to go off the edge, it will then seep through to the front, and being an edible image with moisture, it will actually make the inks run. So you want to be super careful when you are doing this. You just need the tiniest bit of water on the back, and we're just going to gently, I'm not going too close to the edge again because I don't want their inks to run in the image. Just a little bit of water, and now I'm just going to pop that straight onto the fondant disc, pushing down a little bit. And then this is what it'll look like. Now, if you were in a rush and you weren't doing these in advance, you could then stick this straight onto a cupcake. Or if you were going to do them in advance, this would then just go on a tray and just pop over to the side. You can cover that up until tomorrow, or if you're doing it in a few days, you can then pop it into a container as well, an airtight container. Again, keeping it away from moisture. So we don't want to store it in the fridge, we don't want to store it in the freezer, and we don't want to store it next to a window or anywhere where the sunlight can actually get onto those. But yes, that is super easy to do. It's not difficult at all. I will now show you how to do that again with the edible glue. So it's the same process, it's just a different way to stick your image on really. So we're just going to peel the image off. And as I say, they are pre-cut, our cupcake toppers, so it makes peeling them off super easy. You don't have to worry about cutting them out yourself. And we're just going to grab the tiniest bit of glue, and again, just popping a little bit on the back, just enough to make it a little bit tacky to pop onto the fondant. Now you can also, rather than popping it onto the back of the image, you can also just brush your fondant with a bit of glue or water and press that down. Again, peeling away to show that you've now got a topper. Now, if you were to use one that had a fancy edge, you would need to make sure that you have the right size, which I do, which is great. So I'm just going to show you what that would look like as well, just so you have a bit of an idea. So see how this one has a bit of a wavy scalloped edge? So that's just going to show, once I've popped the image on there, it's actually going to be more visible. So again, in with the glue or water, either onto the disc itself or onto the back of the image. Now keep in mind, if you are popping it straight onto the fondant and you are doing a border, you need to make sure that you're not putting the glue or the water further than what the image actually comes out on the disc, because you don't want, again, the inks to run or for it to dry and you can see that shine. So we're just gonna add the tiniest bit on the back. Again, just being so careful not to get too close to the edge because we don't want to ruin the image. And then I'm just going to stick that one on. Again, being so careful, if your hands do get sticky, just wipe them or wash them and dry them really carefully, because you don't want to be touching your images with your hands wet or sticky. Again, inks will run. And now I can show you how that disc looks. So if you wanted a different style, or you wanted to show a bit of color around the outside of your image, or if you wanted to paint that gold or something, you could. Again, just keeping in mind that you don't want too much moisture near the image itself, because that will make the inks run. But again, you can do this in advance, do it as you need to as you go. I do know that a lot of people do get stuck on time and may not have the resources to do this all the time to actually make the fondant toppers. It does just need to be that little thin layer to stop the moisture from your icing going into your image. However, if you don't have time for that, that's okay. You can actually, again, peel your image off and stick that directly onto your cupcake. The only thing is with that is your image will be touching the moisture of your icing on your cake. So you do run the risk of the inks possibly running or the image actually bubbling itself. But in saying that, if you pop them on straight before serving, bring them out, they'll be perfectly fine. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that method if you are doing them in advance, because they will run and they will, bend and warp. They are quite flexible in a way, but if you leave them out and they get too dry, or the water gets on them, they will become quite brittle to use. But yeah, you can definitely just stick it straight on the cupcake if you need. Or again, best of all, just pop it on a fondant disc. Nice and easy, smack it on the top of your cake, you're good to go.
Where you are.
Cool, I'm just trying to think of how to open it.
Fondant, edible images. We're gonna do edible image ASMR.
Okay, sorry. Ah, I said Caitlin Mitchell fondant, not glue. Ah!